All right, 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to the Gonzo Experience. I am David Gonzo Bomano here to bring you another great episode of the Gonzo Experience podcast. So excited that you are here to join us today. We have a new episode every Wednesday morning. Today I have on the show a great guest, and her name is Ashley Faus. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. I'm excited to nerd out about all the marketing things this morning.
I love it. Well, you are a good-looking nerd. You don't look like a nerd, but you're gonna give us some nerd info today. So thank you for that. And specifically, I'm gonna do little highlights of your bio here. You are a marketer, you're a writer, and you are a speaker by day. And at night, pretty cool, you are a singer, you're an actor, and you are a fitness fiend by night. Very cool. What a great combo. Your work has been featured in Time, Forbes, the Journal of Brand Strategy. You have shared insights with audiences at Harvard Business Review, Inbound. You work at a company called Atlassian. I said that correct? Atlassian?
Correct,
and,
Atlassian.
Which is a collaboration software on a mission to unleash the power of team. But really today we're going to get the nuggets from your brain on how to help small to medium-sized business owners, entrepreneurs with probably pretty small budgets, right? Where a lot of them are working like they're either the chief bottle and cook and dishwasher, as they say, or they have a team, but they're still doing a lot and they don't have huge budgets. So once you first tell us a little bit about your journey, about how you get into marketing, then we can start talking about some tips and nuggets to help the Gonzo family grow their business.
Yeah, super excited to be here. So I think one humorous thing, the reason I give both the professional and the personal side of kind of myself in that bio is that I actually use a lot of those personal experiences and hobbies in my professional life. So I actually started college as a musical theater major, not a marketing major. I did end up majoring in marketing, and then obviously took a winding path to wind up in SaaS marketing at Atlassian. I came from startups, so I was in a solar startup that had 5 people total, including me. And then I worked at a couple of different security startups prior to coming to Atlassian, where we were still a team of maybe 2 to 5 people in marketing, and every quarter we're having to fight for our budget because we're working on funding or something like that. So very familiar with the startup and small business space, both personally and professionally. So yeah, super excited to chat about all of these things.
Awesome. A great way to start your career. Obviously you're very creative. Going to have to, at some point, Google you a little bit more deeply to see you singing and acting. So I'm going to definitely be doing that soon.
Whole rabbit hole down the internet.
It's on the internet, right? Yeah. Well, it didn't happen unless it was on the internet, right? So.
Exactly. Pixar, it didn't happen indeed.
Right. So tell us, so like I said, a lot of the Gonzo listeners, the Gonzo family are small to medium-sized business owners, don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars for marketing. But so if you were consulting with one of these type of companies, what would be some of the first things that you did with them to kind of, quote unquote, secure the beachhead or stop the bleeding, and then bring them to the next level so that maybe someday they do have bigger budgets for to spend on marketing, right? And maybe when you're talking about this too, maybe if you could give any recommendations, is there a rule of thumb about how much companies should be spending on marketing, based on revenue or whatever that metric is? Love to hear about that too.
I think I'll jump in starting with one of my frameworks that's called the content playground. So particularly for folks who are looking at some of the bigger, SaaS companies or technology providers, or looking if they're just starting their marketing journey, they're probably hearing a lot about this inbound methodology. And basically the premise of this, HubSpot kind of invented this about a decade ago. And the premise was that instead of pushing a bunch of things to your audience, you would pull them in by providing value through content. And this was actually a great idea, kind of hadn't been done. Social media wasn't really a thing in the past. Having a website, there were still a lot of companies that didn't have websites. Now all of that is table stakes. And so this idea that, okay, I'm going to put out this great piece of content, I'm going to put it behind a form. People are going to give me their email address, and then I'm going to send them these drip nurture campaigns to effectively sell them later down the line. And that worked for a very long time because there was all of this new technology that a lot of people didn't have. The problem is now we do have that technology, right? And especially in the social media space, platforms are greedy and people are lazy. And so people don't want to go to your website. They don't want to fill out a form. They're already in the feed, or they're already doing their own research. And so this idea that we're going to drive people down the funnel, we're going to put them into this, awareness, consideration, purchase phase. We're going to have them fill out a form. And then at each phase, we're going to progressively ask them for more information, and voila, they're ready to buy. Nobody buys that way. Nobody wakes up and says, like, today I have decided to consider this product, right? Nobody does that. So when we think about this from a playground perspective, and this is something that overwhelms people who are maybe in smaller companies or smaller budgets, when I talk about the playground and I say, you need to create a journey that's so smart that people can enter and exit as they please. They can take that journey in whatever order they want. They can use content the wrong way, quote unquote, wrong way. And they're like, okay, but I don't have the people or the time or the money to create all of this content across all of these platforms at all of these different depths. So it's an interesting mindset shift to think about what are the ways that you can create that journey in a smart way in the places where your audience is already spending their time, and how can you repurpose or slice and dice that content across the different platforms to create that playground. So it's that shift from thinking, okay, I got to allocate all of this time and money to creating awareness this quarter, and the next quarter I got to shift all of my time and money and attention to creating consideration content, and then eventually creating purchase content, right? It's a mindset shift to think about, how do I provide the right content in the right place for the right audience at the right time?
Awesome. Yeah. You made me think about these drip campaigns and all that stuff. And, I want to say that's so 2016, right? I mean, those were cutting edge, right? Who's the guy? Russell Brand. That's, he still talks about that stuff, like buy my program. And, but once you've kind of been exposed to a drip campaign, you're kind of like, all right, I get this little strategy.
I see where you're going here. Right, yeah. The next thing is gonna, right, subtly sell me, except it's not subtle. It's actively selling, right?
Yeah, where's the unsubscribe button, right? I mean,
exactly.
What was the software company that you would was like Infusionsoft, right? Which is called Keep now, right? They were like the masters at that. Like if they answer here, you go down here. If they answer here, you go over here, and it's like these wicked, almost like these trees, right? That would branch off into different funnels. I tried to set one up one time, and it was, it was just so not me, right? It was not me because. I'm, and maybe it limits my growth, but I'm just more of a personal touch guy. Like I want it authentically coming from me, so, maybe I need to have 10 customers that are paying me $1 million a piece, and I'll be happy instead of,
instead of 1 million customers paying you, what would that be? $10 a piece, right?
Exactly.
If I did my math right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, and this is one thing I talk about, in the content playground, that ability to repurpose the content and build out your underlying core value propositions or your underlying concepts. And then the thing that changes is the personal story or the hook or the customer case study. And I think people get so hung up thinking that they have to create net new content every single time that they get overwhelmed. And that's where they tend to stall out, because they think they've got to create everything net new. If you go look at the people who are really effective at doing social selling on LinkedIn and attracting people to their offer, they only have 2 or 3 core things that they talk about. And the stuff that changes is the tactical examples or the execution or the hook to get you to look at that. But at their core, they're selling the exact same thing every time, whether that's an idea or a product, right? And so I think that's a big thing, is if you're a small company, you don't have time to tackle 10 things. You just can't know all 10 of those things. And so what I suggest that people do, instead of mapping it to the funnel, they map it to different content depths. So I'll give you an example. And this is where I marry up that fitness fiend with kind of that marketer mindset. So let's say, for example, that everybody agrees that to answer the question, what does it mean to be healthy and fit? is some combination of diet and exercise. But you're going to answer that question very differently if you're Runner's World versus Muscle and Fitness versus Yoga Journal. Mm-hmm. And so if you were in a funnel mindset, you'd say, okay, first I need to make people aware of Muscle and Fitness and protein powder. Okay, people rarely just out of the blue decide they need to go search for protein powder, right? Somewhere in there, they discovered a problem. So in the depths mindset, you're looking at conceptual, strategic, and tactical depths. So if we answer that question, what does it mean to be healthy and fit? At the conceptual level, if you're Muscle and Fitness magazine, you're going to say it's big, strong muscles and a high protein diet. So we're getting kind of into that, like frame up the problem space, this why things exist. At the strategic level, that's where you're framing up the solution space. These are the processes. These are the guidelines that need to be in place. So again, if you're Muscle and Fitness magazine, at the strategic level, you would say, here's proper form for lifting, or here's the value of compound lifts. Here's different types of proteins and why they matter. And then at the tactical level, this is your nitty gritty. This is the how-to. This is where the rubber meets the road. These are the daily habits, right? And so again, if you're Muscle and Fitness, you say, okay, here's 10 tips to build bigger biceps, or here's 5 chicken dinner recipes this week. And so what you start to see is, okay, if I've landed on an article or a Pinterest infographic about building bigger biceps, somewhere in there, there's probably going to be a link that talks about why having big muscles is useful and helps you live a healthier life for a longer life, or why protein is important to building muscles, or, hey, did you know that, yes, it's great to build big biceps, but you should also look at your triceps and your shoulders and your chest. Like, let's talk about the importance of building an entire strong upper body, right? So no matter where you land, you have that easy ability to go back and forth to say, what's at the conceptual level or strategic or tactical level, versus obviously if you were to land in what we traditionally call bottom of funnel content, you're kind of just stuck there. It's like, well, I'm not here to buy something yet. I don't really understand what the problem is. Like, why do I need to buy your product or your service if I don't even understand what the problem is? So making sure that you've done that in a way. And again, you can slice and dice that. I just gave 2 examples of, an infographic on Pinterest or a LinkedIn carousel or a live streaming video. You can then repurpose all of those at different depths into different channels, which saves you time, saves you money, saves you resources.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's great. I love the way you explain it too. I actually understand it. So thank you. That's
the goal.
Bringing it down to the Dave Mamano level. I appreciate that. So let's get a little specific about social media, right? Like,
sure.
So now they're, Instagram Reels and Snapchat and TikTok. So if you're recommending somebody, let's say that they're trying to build their personal brand to be a representative of their business. What are you going to tell them to do these days? I mean, regarding, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, et cetera. Everyone's trying to be a star, right? Everyone's trying to be a celebrity, doing the reels. But how can you stand out from that sea of sameness? Because everybody is not a celebrity. No matter how cool yourself, you try to make yourself look. You don't want to try too hard, right? Because then people like, oh my God, he's not that famous. Who does he think he is? Like it's like you kind of want to capture your genuine self, but make it exciting from a marketing perspective, right? So how do we do that on social media? Like walking that fine line between like not being seen and being obnoxious. How do we get in the middle there?
First thing I would say is choose your platforms wisely. So I am coming from a lens of B2B SaaS. So for me, Instagram is not really the right place to share those kinds of marketing messages. Again, there's some opportunities there from a recruiting perspective because we're a large enough company that we need to be showcasing our culture and things like that. But I would say pick 1, maybe 2 platforms where your audience spends a lot of time and where your message will resonate. So again, for me personally, the messages that I'm trying to share around content strategy, marketing strategy, thought leadership, B2B social media selling, those kinds of things, that doesn't really resonate on Instagram. That doesn't really resonate on Pinterest. That doesn't really resonate on Facebook. So I've honed my platforms down to Twitter and LinkedIn because those are the 2 where my audience spends the most time and where I can be my most authentic self. So I've actually had a lot of people who are saying, oh my gosh, Ashley, you have to get on TikTok. You're so good on video. You have to get on TikTok. And I'm like, thank you for the kind words, but I'm not funny.
Mm.
Like the reality is I'm not. If you were to lay out kind of the attributes of my personal brand and voice, I'm not funny.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a misperception. And I'm sure there'll be some listeners who are like, nah, you can be anything on TikTok. But my perception is I don't have a shtick that will work on TikTok. I'm too verbose. I'm not funny. And I'm not awkward. And I know that sounds funny. And I don't say that as a braggy way, but I'm not awkward. I am high energy. I'm opinionated. I am educational. I'm informative, but I'm not awkward. And so
Ashley, don't sell yourself short. You're very awkward. No, I'm totally kidding.
Thank you. As I'm like doing my hand motions here, I get very excited. So maybe that's true. Maybe I'm like, you know, you are awkward. You just don't know it. You're also blind, right? Let's put it this way: that I strive to not be awkward.
There you go. So far, so good.
So I would say first thing is pick the platforms where your authentic self fits and where your audience fits. I think the second thing is go through the personal branding. What is your tone of voice? Do you want to be helpful? Do you want to be sassy? Are you formal? Are you informal? Do you curse? Do you curse in writing? Do you curse on stage? Right? I personally don't curse on stage or in writing, hardly ever.
It's just not you.
And even it's just not me. And so the rare times when I do curse, you know, particularly in person in the office, people are like, man, she is fired up, because that's not generally how I speak out in the world. And so again, there's no right way or wrong way. There's plenty of people where cursing is part of their personal brand, but the big thing is being consistent. And if you're wearing a mask, it shines through. And that's why I say, for me personally, getting on TikTok, I can do tropes or gimmicks. I could probably figure out a way to make TikTok work for me, but it just feels like it's going to clash with what I've set up as my personal brand. And the reason that I've quote unquote set it up is that's who I am. And people can tell. I get this all the time when I work with people on this stuff. They're like, I'll just do whatever you tell me to do. I'll just say whatever you want me to say. And I'm like, no. I don't have the right answers. I'm not here to turn you into a corporate shill. I'm here to ask you questions to help you identify what you're most comfortable in. Because if you're wearing a mask, if you're regurgitating a script, it comes across as inauthentic. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is for people to hone in on what makes you, you, and where are the platforms where that most fits. And then what makes your audience like you or like your product or engage on that platform, and where's the alignment between those two things. So I think those are the biggest things, is really that consistency between yourself, your platform, your message, and your audience.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, I think you nailed it. You said the word, you know, being authentic and being in alignment a few times. And it's true. You know, in fact, when I just talked about all social media, I didn't even bring up Twitter, as I never use it. I can't keep up with it. I mean, for me, people love it. People like, I see it on Twitter, and I'm just like, and I'm even an ADHD guy. Like, you think I could keep up with it, but I can't. I'm like, oh my God, it's too much, but Facebook and LinkedIn, I gravitate towards those. It's just very natural for me. Starting to do a little Instagram, no TikTok, I do Snapchat with my kids, but that's about it, but you're right. Yeah. So whatever is just like natural to you makes a lot of sense, and to the brand, right? You want to make sure that, you're representing the brand as well. So that's great.
Well, and there are certain platforms, again, I think understanding where your audience spends time. I have a personal Instagram. I don't really post to it that often. It is public, but I have very few followers, very little engagement. I occasionally post, cakes and fitness routines there, right? But that's not where the thing that I'm selling and what I want my audience to take from me is not really on Instagram. If you're a lifestyle influencer, if you're a fitness brand, if you're a wellness brand, if you're a supplements brand, for example, if you're a jewelry brand, more visual mediums like that, that more kind of human to human, image driven or video driven platforms like Pinterest, like Instagram, like TikTok might be a better fit for you than LinkedIn. But if you're selling more business to business, if you're selling technology, something like LinkedIn, even Reddit Hacker News, if you're, again, particularly if you're marketing to devs, Hacker News and Reddit are great places for you. And the big thing is that you can't fake being part of those communities. And so I think that's the other reason why that alignment is so key, and choosing the 1 or 2 platforms that are really the right place. Because if you try to be in all of them, like I've never done a Instagram reel. It's so funny. I was trying to do somebody who is really active on Instagram was wanting to do a boomerang. And I was like, I literally don't know how to make a boomerang because I don't do that. And so I'm like trying to find the button on Instagram. They're like, you have an Instagram account. I'm like, yeah, I just lurk.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know how you make a reel or how you do a boomerang. But if you ask me about LinkedIn, I can go all the way down the rabbit hole because that's the platform where I spend all of my time. I freaking know the quirks of that platform and how it's changing. And so sometimes it's not even just about knowing the audience, it's also about knowing the quirks of the audience behavior in that specific platform.
That's fantastic. How about email marketing these days? Is that still working at all, or is that kind of like 2001?
I just commented on a post actually earlier today where I think it was Christopher Penn, who I love. Go follow him on LinkedIn. He's great. He's part of Trust Insights. They do a ton of data stuff. And he said that anybody that says X is dead is just trying to sell you something. And I said, yeah, that's totally true, right? We need a whole series about basically people saying, oh, I tried X and I brought it back to life. So for email marketing, I would say there are a lot of people who are doing really well with that, particularly from a personal branding standpoint, where they've got a personal newsletter that it comes out on a certain cadence and people want to hear specifically from that person. I think, again, the biggest key is understanding what resonates with your audience. For the most part, they want to consume wherever they are. And so if they spend a lot of time in their inbox, then if they live and die by their inbox, email is going to work a lot better than social media. If they live and die by their social media feeds, social media native consumption in the platform is going to be better. If they are in a mindset of looking to buy, so we see this a lot, right? People Google Jira for product management or for project management, or Jira for bug tracking, or Trello for project management. In that case, they are very specifically looking to understand the use case for a product and kind of the benefits and features that will help them solve that problem. Then something like SEO or competitive battle card pages on your website are going to be a great way for them to find that. So really understanding what your audience is seeking to gain and where they spend that time so that you hone your resources in. You're going to struggle if you've got basically an email marketing campaign that's just on autopilot for 3, 4, 5 quarters. You never touch the subject line. You never try, an experiment with the headers of the format. You don't experiment with sending it from a person versus from a company. You don't experiment with any subscription-based, more from a topic versus sending it out as something that's a push based on people who have already bought from you, right? Like, you have to keep experimenting with that channel. And that's hard to do if you're trying to do email and social media and paid ads and sponsored content and. So definitely in the beginning, you probably need to check it out. Like, if you're just now launching something, asking people how they heard about you is the number one way that I would suggest. Like, get on the phone and ask them what was their journey so that you can start to find those commonalities and then focus in on the best platforms. So I am loath to say that anything is dead. Email marketing is not dead, but I think that the old school style of gate an ebook to then shove people into a list where they get this automated drip, that is the thing that I think has significantly evolved. And so if you're going to pop into somebody's inbox, you need to make that content highly valuable, right? Like, again, if you look at The Hustle, again, I know some things have changed now that they've been acquired by HubSpot, but that newsletter had hundreds of thousands or millions of subscribers precisely because they delivered the exact right message at the exact right time to the exact right person. And so if you're just blasting your emails out and hoping that they get opened and clicked, again, you've missed the point because you haven't done that audience research. And if it's not aligned, again, if all you're, from a brand standpoint, if people are doing more one-time purchases, or they're doing, it's a big purchase that's rare, then having an email drip to constantly try to upsell them is probably a little bit tone deaf versus providing potentially educational content or use-based content so that the next time they're ready to make that same purchase or upgrade or whatever it is, they have that option. Again, some of this depends, right? Like small businesses or one-man band can encompass everything from mobile apps to, these big SaaS companies that started in a garage to jewelry or wellness or skincare or niche products for parents of kids birth through 2 years old, right? Like that spans a massive niche. So it's a little hard to say like, oh, this is the one silver bullet, because there's just not.
Right. I mean, we could probably spend a whole day with you just talking about this. Is there a place to go where they could learn more about what you're talking about, get in touch with you, all that great stuff?
Yes, LinkedIn. So I think that's the best place to find me. You can find me on Twitter. I do engage there, but LinkedIn, Ashley Faus. I am should be the first result, but I talk a lot about thought leadership, content strategy, marketing strategy, social media, and kind of the intersections of all of those with frameworks, tips, and tricks that anybody can use, whether you're just starting your journey, whether you've got a big budget, small budget, lots of different ways to engage if you connect with me on LinkedIn.
Beautiful. And Ashley, which is very easy to spell, but Faus, I'm going to spell it for everybody, Faus. Faus. And if anybody wants a personal connection, and Ashley, I don't think you'll mind this, throw me an email and I will personally connect you. David@davidmamano.com. Pretty easy to remember. Ashley, this has been super fantastic. I appreciate you sharing your insights, your nuggets, your brain, and your heartbeats with us today. Truly appreciate it. Wishing you continued massive success.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, David. It's a fun conversation.
Thank you to our mutual friend, Patrick McGovern, for introducing.
Indeed.
Everybody he's introduced me to is a superstar. So thank you, Patrick. Ashley, thanks again. Wishing you the best. I also want to thank the Gonzo family for listening to another episode. If you like this episode, please share it with friends, like it, review it, all that great stuff. Totally appreciate you. Love you all. And make sure to stay awesome.